Okay, last night, last video I did, we adjusted the pattern, so because it was getting so dark last night, I quit recording. But here is the pattern. I cut it out, and since I had some time last night, I decided to go ahead and put the pieces together to see how they looked on the Our Generation dolls. So we made changes to the neckline. So do you see how we raised, let me make sure you can see that. We raised the neckline all the way to the top to cover her connection point here at the top. We increased the arms so you couldn't see her arm sockets on either side of this also. I could have done a little bit, given it a little more, but the problem was I used 3/8 of an inch seams instead of 1/4 inch seams, so you don't want to do that. But that was the difference. So we also widened this out. See how this is here? We widened it out on the bigger dolls, and we raised up the neckline. Now, the outfit is still pretty short, so if you want, even with that inch, it still came out shorter than I expected. So if you want to add more to an inch on the bottom of these, you should, because that's basically what it's going to look like as far as the length of it. I have so much of this seam binding, so I thought I would try to use some of it up. So I put that on for her hem, but it would have been the same if I had turned it up twice anyway. So that is the outfit. It's too short to wear without leggings or tights, and then I just put on her boots. As far as, I didn't make any facings for the pattern. This is the whole pattern. You need to zipper up the back, and you're going to have to use some bias tape for the trim. This was the one I did in the book covers, and then I used orange bias tape on that and put a zipper up the back. We're going to do the same thing on the video one too. So that was with the bias tape. This one I just cut strips of the same fabric, and I sewed around it like bias tape, and then I just top stitched it. That's an option too, but this one's only good if you're going to be using the stretch fabric. Since we're dealing with cotton, this isn't going to be an option. Okay, and then we've got this one here on the doll. I lined this whole thing thinking that, let me take it off of her. I lined the whole thing thinking that I wouldn't need any facing at all, and that's true. If you line the whole thing, you're not going to need any facing for the neckline, but once you're finished with the neckline, you're still going to have to finish off the armholes. So I did the same thing on here. I made my own bias tape, and I didn't want it to show on the front of this one, so I just whip stitched the bias tape down. The top I didn't have to worry about because it was in the I just lined it completely and turned it inside out, and that's how I got that lining on the neckline. But it's up to you how you want to do it. I'm going to show you how to do it with the bias tape, but this is all the same pattern. It's just with different types of fabric, but the techniques are all the same. So whether you line it, bind it, or use the bias tape, it's all going to turn out the same way. On her, I used the bias tape, and they're cute little tunics, and they're very simple to make. I did this in, I don't know, maybe a couple hours last night from start to finish, so it's not time consuming. So what you're going to need is your fabric, and like I said, we're going to do fat quarter clothes. So here's my fat quarter that we're going to use. We're going to need a zipper. I bought my zipper at the thrift store for what was it, 15 cents I think it was. So I cut this, I made the zipper a little too small. It's not that easy to get it on and off, so we're going to go with the bigger, use a bigger zipper on this one, or longer zipper anyway, so it's easier to get on and off. But I used the same technique on this one. Let me see if I can show it to you. I used the bias tape method. I didn't have any single fold bias tape, so I took some dark brown double fold bias tape that I had, and I just cut it in half. So you could still use double fold bias tape and then just cut it down if that's all you have. Okay, so this is the whole pattern. That's all there is to it. So this time, instead of doing a Christmas design, we're going to do it on the autumn colors. Okay, so like I said, it's a fat quarter. So let me see what you see on the camera. Okay, so I'm just going to get my ironing board out, and I'm going to, here's my salvage. So you know on the fat quarter you're going to have one salvage, so let's go with the grain of the fabric. So we want to go with that salvage. So let's put our piece on here. We're going to either pin it or iron it down and cut it out, and then we're going to do our front and our back the same way. Okay, so instead of doing this on camera to save time, I'm just going to go ahead and cut this out, and then when I come back we'll get started sewing it up. You have plenty of fabric left over if you want to make a headband or a pair of shorts. You're going to have plenty of fabric left to do that. So let's go ahead and I think I'm going to add a little bit more on the hemline on this one, but I'm just going to do it by eyeing it. I'm not going to make another pattern out. Okay, so I'm going to come back. I'll have this cut out, and we will start putting the zipper in the back of the dress.